All right, welcome to the very first stream of Ruta del Sol. Today we will be talking about Steve Jobs' speech. Uh, let's let's go.
Today, I want to tell you three stories from my life. That's it. No big deal. Just three stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of Reed College after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a drop in for another 18 months or so before I really quit. So, why'd I drop out? It started before I was born. My biological mother was a young, unwed graduate student, and she decided to put me up for adoption. She felt very strongly that I should be adopted by college graduates, so everything was all set for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife. Except that when I popped out, they decided at the last minute that they really wanted a girl. So my parents, who were on a waiting list, got a call in the middle of the night asking, "We've got an unexpected baby boy. Do you want him?" They said, "Of course." My biological mother found out later that my mother had never graduated from college and that my father had never graduated from high school. She refused to sign the final adoption papers. She only relented a few months later when my parents promised that I would go to college. This was the start in my life.
So what does this tell us? This tells us that hindi mo control ang fate kahit anong gusto mong mangyaring may mangyaring hindi mo inaakala. Kahit anong subukan mong i-control, may mga bagay na unexpected talaga. Katulad dito sa kwento na 'to, kahit na pinush ng magulang ni Steve Jobs na mapunta siya sa mga educated katulad ng lawyer, na-adapt siya ng dalawang tao na hindi na po natapos ang edukasyon nila. Kasi sa katotohanan, ang edukasyon ay privilege, hindi dito given. Kaya Kaya medyo malungkot dahil may mga tao talagang hindi nakapagtapos ng pag-aaral nila. So, yun ang take ko dito. Or the others, anong take nyo?
Yung take ko dito ay, we shouldn't have privilege. Of course, we shouldn't have privilege. We shouldn't have prejudice sa mga people na are not given the same education as us at should give them opportunity to blossom. Parang yung mga parents ni Steve Jobs yon nag-adopt sa kanya ay yung gusto ng biological mother ni Steve Jobs ay yung yung parents na mag-adopt sa kanya ay well educated, lawyers, high high class society, well, you know, well educated. So at when nag-adopt but because binigay ng opportunity at chance yung biological parent ni Steve Jobs, binigay niyang chance yung mga parents ngayon ni Steve Jobs na that really wanted him to be part of their family. We have the Steve Jobs of that we know of today, the one who made Apple. He is Steve Jobs because he was given the proper mindset, the proper mannerisms and ways to approach things, and given the life that surrounds him when he was a child because of his parents, of his adopted parents, and his adopted parents are not do not have the privilege to go to high school or college, but they did a good enough job, and I could even argue a great job on raising Steve Jobs to the point that he even got made Apple.
I definitely agree with what you said, since imagine raising a child that would one day be able to create something so amazing, so well inspired, and something that many people use day to day. It's amazing how you wouldn't even expect that two people who didn't finish their education were the ones who raised them. So that's why I also think we shouldn't judge a book by its cover, or why we shouldn't judge people or how they were raised. Not how they were raised, who raised them. For Byron, what's your take on this?
Um, for my opinion, is this the first one? For my opinion, you don't have to be rich, and it is all about the knowledge you have or the skills you have in mind to make your own legacy or your own future.
Yeah, I agree that you don't need to be born into a rich family so that you may have a great future, and that you can be like Steve Jobs. You don't need to be born in a rich family to have what Steve Jobs has. Because look at him, he wasn't born in a rich family. He was born by two people who couldn't finish their education. And that's why I think it's really important to know what Steve Jobs is, because he's not only inspiration to people went who didn't went to school. He's also an inspiration to those who went to school. That's why I think he's a really great person. But for Lorenzo, what's your opinion on
For me is it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if it doesn't really matter if your family is not rich or doesn't have any money. As long as they raise you well, you'll definitely have the best parents in your life.
this? I agree on that statement. Doesn't matter what your standing is in life. If you were raised right, you will be a good person. If you weren't raised right, then no matter how rich you are, you're you won't be able to appreciate what you have. And that's my thinking to it. So let's go to the next part.
And 17 years later, I did go to college. But I naively chose a college that was almost as expensive as Stanford. And all of my working class parents' savings were being spent on my college tuition. After 6 months, I couldn't see the value in it. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and no idea how college was going to help me figure it out. And here I was, spending all of the money my parents had saved their entire life. So I decided to drop out and trust that it would all work out okay.
Now, this is one of the many examples that school has limitations that you're gonna have to face for yourself. Because look at Steve Jobs. He went to a good college, a Reed College, which is one of the most elite schools on America. Reed College, which is one of the most elite schools on America. And this is Steve Jobs. He still didn't know what he's gonna do with his life and his talents. And this is though I don't want to demean he's gonna do with his life. It's not my statement is not to demean school. What I'm basically saying is there are certain limitations that you're gonna have to face for yourself, and you having an education might help you face this, but in the end of the day, you're the one who's gonna have to face what the problems that you're gonna have. And for the others, what's your opinion on this?
Um, for me, schoolwork does not always be helpful or the key to solve your problems or situation or challenges in your future. But some schoolworks right now that you are doing right now will help
And
you or determine
schoolwork does not always
what future will
it
be
might help
in
you
store
face
for
this,
you.
but in the end of the day, you're the one who's
Schoolwork does not always
I agree. Yeah. And I think na din na there's I think education talaga is I think people look at it either too lowly, parang it's not important, or too much, parang it is the most important thing that you're about to do in your whole life. Na ano. I think that I think that it's a good balance. I think we should just look as my college, my education as what it is. It's to give us, it's a privilege to have it, but to rely on it to 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 the point that it would give us purpose is also so wrong. I don't think education should be that. It should just give us proper uh way to to expect and to function in the working world na business opportunities and the cogs in the wheels of society. uh, I think it's comforting than Steve Jobs at his age na at our age was also having a crisis now. He didn't know what he wanted to do. Now he didn't really know what to do as a 16-year-old, and it's comforting now one of the greats also had that problem, and then later on in life uh he made one of the most successful companies uh, in the world. So I think it's really inspiring. I think like as we're youthful minds, we're destined to be great, but depending on the path that we lead on, that we step on, will decide our and it's not always the educational path that will always lead us to a certain success. It also has to do with a mix of our own wits and experience and intuition and guts and self-confidence on your decisions. Sorry, I took too long.
it's all right. We're here to voice out our opinions, and I totally agree with what you said. Because even I now I am having trouble finding out what I want to do in life, and knowing that, yeah, as you said, Steve Jobs had the trouble is really comforting for me. So
True.
let's move on to were you about to say something? It's all right if you
Oh no, I'm good.
okay. So let's move on to the next topic. Next part.
It was pretty scary at the time, but looking back, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The minute I dropped out, I could stop taking the required classes that didn't interest me and begin dropping in on the ones that looked far more interesting. It wasn't all romantic. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor in friends' rooms. I returned Coke bottles for the 5-cent deposits to buy food with. And I would walk the 7 miles across town every Sunday night to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna temple. I loved it. And much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later on. Let me give you one example. Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them. If I had never dropped out, I would have never dropped in on that calligraphy class, and personal computers might not have the wonderful typography that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in.
Now, for this, it, this might be a bit confusing, but you can only connect the dots by looking backwards. You can never connect the dots looking forward. This quote means that you can that this quote means that you can never appreciate the things happening now as you can appreciate them happening when you're looking back. Because look at Steve Jobs, he took that one calligraphy class, and at that time he thought that he won't be able to use it in real life. And now some years later, he when he was designing the Macintosh computer or the computer, he it all came back to him. Like, and this resulted with us having beautiful typography and the different fonts that we have on our computers. This helped us advance, and it's because Steve Jobs and fate led him to that calligraphy class and 20 years later and help him. But that's my take on it. So, what's your take, Felipe?
Oh, I like your take, Sai, and also I think one of ways to look at it also is like Steve Jobs saying hindi syempre ano, you can't connect yung mga dots by looking at the future is also in a way saying you don't need to overthink yung mga ginagawa mo for your future. It's good to plan. It's good to plan for the future, always having a backup, but don't overthink it. Don't over romanticize and linger on the idea of being in the future. I think being in the present and looking back time to time to see your improvements and get I also think like looking back for too long is also not a good thing, but looking back and just enjoying the view of your accomplishments, of your improvement to yourself is also a good thing. Seeing the dots that have connected in your life now really took effort to do, and you couldn't see at the time. It's kind of like it's a magical experience, and it can inspire you to keep moving forward and not and don't overthink it. Don't overthink it, and just be more in the present of now, who you are now. You know.
Uh, I really like your point, Felipe, especially when not to overthink the future, since we can't really predict the future. We can try to plan it out, but we can never really plan plan what happened. If it happens, then it happens. But if it doesn't happen, then that's just part of it. Uh, and for Byron, what do you think of this? Or Lorenzo, Byron, what do you think of this?
Um, for my opinion, for what you will do today, what actions you will do today, it will take on action for in your future life. Um, uh, Tama ba yun?
Kahit mag-Tagalog ka, pwede naman.
Yeah. Parang kung ano yung
Oh,
gagawin mo ngayon, magre-reflect siya sa future mo. Parang 'pag nag-graduate ka, may ano ka sa future mo, parang makakakuha ka ng business or parang makaka-apply ka ng for businesses.
Mm.
Ikaw, Lorenzo?
Lorraine.
Tama ka dyan. I think sa sinabi ni Brian, agree naman ako dun.
Yes.
Hmm? Hello. Okay, so I think that's all. Now let's continue to the next part.
In your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well worn path. And that will make all the difference.
Now, I believe this is one of the most powerful quotes that Steve Jobs has presented us with. Since having the belief in something, believing in God or in yourself, even, like whether it be divine or not, having a belief is one of the most important things a person could have. Because all successes, all great successes, start with the belief that you can do it and you'll be able to succeed. Knowing this, many people succeeded in their life knowing that they would one day be great. And that's my take on it. How about you, Felipe?
Yeah, I think that's true. So I self confidence and believing in yourself. To believe in something is such a strong thing that I think people really, uh, underestimate. To if, to believe in yourself, and I think prioritizing believing on your own self before believing on anybody else is such a is a good mindset, because to move forward, it's you need a motivation to move forward, and what better motivation to move forward than to have the confidence to move forward. And to have confidence you need motivation, and motivation can be believing on oneself, you know. And maybe ikaw, Lorenzo.
Yeah, I think having confidence in yourself really helps you a lot because it's like your daily motivation, or let's just say daily energy word that we use. Yeah. How about you, Kyle?
For me, agree ako sa mga sagot nyo, and sa lahat ng sa lahat ng challenges, meron siyang meron siyang hard times or rough situation, pero always believe in yourself that you can do it, and you can complete the harder challenge and harder situations for your future.
Yeah, also like yung sinabi ni Sarah na about yun divine doesn't really need to always have to be divine. Pero it's an important thing. It's also good.
Yeah,
Yeah, yun lang.
yeah, I agree with all the things you all said. This thing is really, well, to me personally, having the belief in something is really personal to you, and it's really important that you have this because it it could act as your compass, and It could act as the thing that saves you from many troubles that you'll encounter in your life. But regarding that, we'll go to the next part na because we're taking too long. Okay. Uh,
My second story is about love and loss. I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We just released our finest creation, the Macintosh, a year earlier, and I just turned 30. And then I got fired. How can you get
Now, imagine that. Imagine starting a company and then you're the one who got fired. It's almost funny that they're the ones who got fired because they're the ones who literally started the company that later grow
Betrayal.
betrayal. Yeah, that later grows into Apple. Because and this tells us that no matter how successful or how talented, how good you are, this just tells us that setbacks will always exist in your life. It doesn't matter how good you are, just doesn't matter how rich you are, there will always be setbacks because setbacks is somewhat a part of life. It helps you grow. And that's my take. But to the others, what's your take on this?
Hmm,
Ikaw, Byron.
ako na.
Ooh,
For me, ano, um, in life, there will be always delays or someone to prevent you from doing what you want. Do not, ano, wag mo silang pansinin kasi nagpapabagal lang sila sa'yo. Kaya keep moving forward and believe in yourself. If you if you do not want to be alone, find some friend to start a company that you can trust and do
bali
not
jowa.
betray you. Okay. Jowa, ganun din siguro.
Tama.
Lalo na.
Lalo
Lalo
na.
na.
Lalo na ngayong Valentine. Uh, how
Di ba,
about you,
Lorenzo?
Felipe?
Ah.
Uh,
Yeah.
which one would you want to go first?
Ah, sige, ako muna. Parang iisip muna si Lorenzo. Sige. Ah, ah, I think na, wait. Okay. Yun, I think it's a good experience then. I think it's great na sinasabi ni Steve Jobs yun na kick out siya, hindi niya tinatago yun. At that it's a great humiliation sa kanya yun. It's like, na he got kicked out of his own company. I mean, come on. It's like parang si Haley bumalik sa atin. Next, naging leader siya. Next, nawala si Sire. Parang nakakaiyak din yun. So, I think it's great humanity at uh, it really shows na the greatest people, the highest, the not really great, but the well-achieved people in life have have suffered or experienced great humiliation through the process of being of achieving what they want, and it'll be I think that's what I get sa sinabi ni Steve Jobs. I think, yeah. Ikaw, Lorenzo.
Uh, Failure is like an opportunity, and it's a chance for you to reevaluate and come back stronger with a better reason. Like, failure is not fatal. No matter how hard may it be, that failure means you get another shot to try it again. So keep moving forward, even though it's so hard. Nothing is impossible.
Yeah, that's a great message, and it also corresponds with what Steve Jobs was saying to believe yourself and never give up. And now the next.
Fired from a company you started.
Retinol, also known as vitamin A, is a type of retinoid known for its ability to promote skin cell renewal, enhance.
Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year or so, things went well. But then our visions of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did, our board of directors sided with him. And so at 30, I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I really didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt that I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure, and I
Now this is I am a bit shocked on this, but now this tells us that just like the other message, no matter how high in life you are, you will have setbacks. You fail. Doesn't matter how good you are, but you will fail, and that's just part of it. And also, this tells us that no matter how good you are or how confident you are, when you fail, you will you will feel humiliation, and that's also just a part of growing. Humiliation is just like failure. They're both parts to help you improve and know what you need to improve in life. And that loss is devastating, and loving what you can do might help you. Also, and with that, what's the other people's opinion? What's your opinion, Felipe?
Oh, I like what you said, Sire, and also about failure. It's such a thing to it's such a devastating experience to have to fail on what you do and on what you're doing and the humiliation that you would get, the self pity that will overwhelm you. It's such a heavy experience to have, but I think it's such a thing that also we must look look at and really appreciate the moment of having failure. I know it sounds weird, but having the experience of failing and taking a step back and looking at why you failed and how you failed. Sometimes failing can just be because you did something wrong, or perhaps that you did nothing wrong, and failure is just failure, and it's such a growing experience for you. So many people have matured because of what of facing the danger of failing and of what they've done. But I think it's also important of how you face failure. Sometimes if you're given the experience of failing, you just gloom over it. Most people usually gloom over it, cry about it, and never really move on, and always linger on oh man, I failed, like, and never really get over it. I think it's important to the the way you per the way you move on to failure. It really cements who you are as a person. You get to grow of it. Failure makes you grow in a way, and depending on how you approach it. So yeah, I think failure is something that all of us have to accept and look in the eye, it uh, and you are the one who will decide whether how you approach it, whether you move on and become a better person and learn from it, or you stay stagnant and stay where you are and just cry about it. So yeah, I think that's what I see in such things. How about you, Lorenzo or Vibrant?
For me, think of the things that you love to do, like sketching or playing online games. Um, you love them to do. You love them, right? Uh,
Yeah,
they are the key. They are the key to your future when you have something that you have na ay mali pala. Magtatagalog na nga lang ako. Parang ano siya, keep on doing keep on doing those things. What is your hobby? What things that you have okay, mali pa nga yung sinasabi ko, wait lang. Ikaw muna, Lorenzo.
Okay, so do the things that you like and enjoy those things. It can help you one day because one day the the mga mga things na ginagawa mo is makakatulong din yan sa'yo kasi yan yung mga mahilig mo gawin. Tsaka yan din ang parang doon ka masaya. Mada, ma, malaking tulong yun sa'yo.
Yeah, I agree on what you all said. Though some I only agree partly, but all of you said was on point, somewhat on point. Let's move to the next part.
Even thought about running away from the valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar went on to create the world's first computer animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next, and I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. And Lorene and I have a wonderful family together. I'm pretty sure none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. It was awful tasting medicine, but I guess the patient needed it.
Okay, now let's hear that quote again. He said it was awful tasting medicine, but I guess the patient needed. Now, this is one of the most important things to remember in Steve Jobs' speech because fa- failure is like the better medicine you don't want. It's there to help you, but you really don't want to taste it. But in all of that, you're it's gonna help you be better, improve you. Like vegetables. It's failure is like vegetables. You don't really want it. To some don't really want it, but they'll grow from it. If you catch my analogy, and that's my opinion on it. You don't want it, but you're gonna need it in life. How about the others? What's your opinion on this?
yeah. I think that was a good analogy. You know, that was pretty good about like vegetables and you will need it in later in life. You will realize later in life that you need it even though you don't want it. Like no vegetables, and I think it's a good it's a good thing to sometimes make you realize that having a certain setback is like this is makes you realize what you do for love. Do you do what do you love what you do and stuff. So I think that's good stuff. I think Virant, do you ano mo sasabi mo?
Um, my opinion is failure is part of your life. Without it, there will be no success. Failure is a reminder to us that we can still move on from this mistake. And someday in the future, you will have accomplished things with less fail or without fails.
Nice. Lorenzo, ikaw. Feeling ko meron ka gusto sabihin.
Failure is always a part of our life. Hindi siya nawawala. Kasi pag wala siya, hindi ka aangat. Yun.
Tama. I think that's true. I think we should always be prepared to failure. It's always part of life talaga. At for sure na, syempre for preparation and to to be prepared for failure naman. It doesn't mean that you have another way. It just means talagang be prepared to fail. And if you're prepared to fail, you won't fall as hard. You know, I think that's a good saying. Ikaw, Sai. I think good. Yes, it's gonna be very entertaining.
Like, sure. That's Apple. What next? I return. Uh, the first in yung mga part. That's and also about there in such a way things na ginagawa mo, makakatulong din sa'yo kasi one day, mga, mga things na ginagawa mo, makakatulong din sa'yo kasi yan yung mga mahilig mo gawin. Ah, yan din ang parang yung masaya. Kaya like vegetable. I apologize for the background noise on my side. And here we are. To the to the viewer named Next Lover here. What what they said was they failed a test and they were devastated for days. I mean, failure is a part of life, so I would tell you not to worry too much about it. Since part of it, and I'm guessing you tried to better yourself after failing. Like, to the others, what's your advice on this? What do you think?
I think it means you should do better. Named it. Named it. No. You should. You should. I think you failing the test was sad. We all have that expectation that like what you really tried this time to succeed on something and you still fail, or perhaps you've always had good grades next, and this one time you fail. But I think uh and that's fine. Fail. It's humility. You will fail sometimes, and I think being devastated for days, it's a setback that I don't think you should really linger on uh using the days that you have on be on you know being sad on something that has already happened. I think it you could have really used more time on improving something, and not really lingering on the thought that, oh man, I failed on this test. You should, like, if you get knocked down, you should get up and stand more straight and firm your legs better. Like, uh don't be knocked down. Always always stand up and look failure in the eye and say, you are not putting me down today. I'm not going to feel sorry for myself because I failed this one test. I always have bravado, have self-respect on yourself. Yeah. How about you, Lorenzo? uh what's your like advice for your next lover? His question, he answered by saying, I failed in a test and I was devastated for days.
Well, let's just say it's okay to fail sometimes. Uh, like we just said earlier, failing is a part of our life, and we need to move on and adapt. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, true.
yeah. How
Yes.
about you, Kai?
Yeah.
Well, I have nothing to say because you already have one.
No, no.
Lahat ng ideas na nakuha ko is binigay niyo din.
Oh, sige.
Na-relate lang ako.
Wala na masasabi si Hendrich. He's good.
Na, wala na. I have
Bakit
none na.
wala na? Na hindi. Bakit wala na?
Because you already take it.
I think what I is trying to say is it's already over, so don't
Yeah,
dwell
yeah.
too much upon it. And I think that's okay now. Thank you for sharing your experience, your next lover. Uh,
Oh, sorry. Let me mute.
let's go to the next part.
Sometimes life's going to hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love, and that is as true for work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do.
Now, in this part, Steve Jobs especially says that you have to love your work for you to do good work, because work is gonna fill in a really large part of your life from your childhood. Even studying is, so right now work, it's work. So if you love what you do, then you'd love what you would love what you are doing, and you won't get tired, you won't get stressed out, you won't get burned out on what you're doing, because you feel as if that you're doing something. Uh, Sorry for the background noises. I am in somewhere that's a bit noisy. But let me reiterate. As I've said, loving what you do is gonna take a big part of your life, and to avoid stress or to avoid being tired quickly or burning out, is you have to love what you do, so that you won't get easily get stressed, o hindi ka mapapagod kaagad sa ginagawa mo, kasi para sa'yo parang naglalaro ka lang, para ka lang ano, nagsasaya. So that's what I think on this. So for the others, what's your opinion?
So, sa totoo lang, I think I like what you said, Sire, but ano din, hope hope you don't mind. Na parang I do think na doing what you're doing what you love doesn't fully always cure, doesn't always mean na because in what you do is what you love, it means na you won't get burnt out then. I think most but people who do their jobs and their ano, who do art for a living and succeed in doing it still get burnt out, or or music then, or mga even actually a good example then recently mga mga YouTubers, mga they play games for a living pero sinasabi nila uh, nababurnout sila. At I, pero the thing is, parang doing what you love, the important part that even though you're getting burnt out, you're still, you will always find a reason to love it again. You will always find new dimensions on why you love it, and realizing that, and you rediscover on why you love it again. There's always a uh, rediscovery on why you love the thing that you do, and I think it's a that's also a beautiful learning step, something to look at. To be burnt out is not something to be always be a negative thing. It's also uh, make it will make you take a step back and reflect on why you love it, and I think that's a beautiful experience to have on re-loving something that you already loved before. Parang parang lang mga ex, Happy Valentine's Day, boys. Ikaw,
Valentine's Day?
Byron.
None. No.
Uh, why now? Next week pa.
Ikaw. Ano masasabi mo?
Well,
Parang doing what you love.
well, I do love playing online games and making stuff or creative stuff.
Yes.
Well, meron din siyang challenge all the way. Like materials or like Wi-Fi, like that's all.
Yeah. That's nice.
Ikaw,
Ikaw,
Loren.
Juan Antonio Lorenzo.
Well, I I love biking. It's very fun. I enjoy outside or going outside, especially uh I hate it when it's uphill. It's destroying my legs. But It's the part where you struggle the most, but mostly it's fun because you're getting new experiences in life. Yeah.
Sorry, Leonard. May I ask a question?
What's the question?
Did you say did you say biking or did you say fighting?
Biking.
As in bike,
Bicycle.
not
Bicycle.
king. It's B.
Yeah, B, not F or what?
If
What? Nah, move on, move on.
Fighting?
Hmm.
Did fighting? Sinabi ni Renzo.
mm,
I think we're good for now.
All right, let's let's continue before we end up talking about exes.
I agree.
Okay, to the next part.
If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better as the years roll on. So keep looking, don't settle. My third story is about death.
Hey, I'm Kayla, and I'm one of the AI voices from Revoicer. I can be sad, and you'll think that I might break.
When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." It made an impression on me, and since then, for the past 33 years, I've looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. No one.
The again one of the most powerful quotes in Steve Jobs' speech, and it's also a really good tool for day-to-day life. If you think that one, where he said, think if you live your life like it was your last day every day, you would do the things you actually want. I mean, living your life like it's the last day, it's gonna help you overcome the petty reasons we don't do things, like the fear of failure, especially the fear of failure. Since in the face of that, everything else just falls off. Because one of the many great fears of mine or anyone else's is not being able, not not being given the chance to do what you want to do, even if you don't want to do it. Not being given the chance to not do what you don't want to do is, it's one of the many fears that people have, commonly have. And I think that's why living your day like it's your last is one really important thing, or one really important realize self realization tool that we have to remember. But for the others, what's your opinion on this? Like, what do you think about it? Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you said is really spot on, actually, Sai. About day to day life and the way we if today is our last day, the things that no we are doing will actually, if we look at it as a really our last day, we'll actually do what we want. You know, like things we won't really fear failure as much because it's quote unquote your last day. So you'll actually, I don't know, try to do the things that you want, and in the end of the day, you're gonna be like you actually did something that you're proud of. Now, actually make you happy. For example, parang for the spirit of ano Valentine's Day, syempre ay parang you ask out na yun mga crush mo, no? 'Di ba? 'Di ba, Byron? Juan? Antonio?
Huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No last day, tatanungin mo na yun ano, gusto mo?
Maybe,
Oh?
kung kaya.
No problem kung lalaki ah.
Babae yun, syempre.
Very good, very good. I mean, no problem kung ano. Yeah. So, yeah. Ikaw, Byron, meron kang a-add doon sa if today's like your last day na gagawin mo
Um,
everyday life, in
I
daily
will
life
just
mo.
say, spend if it is your last day, if it's my last day, um, I would spend it with my family and friends.
Oh, French. Ikaw, Lorenzo.
Well, for me, if it was my last day, I'll spend it with my family, mostly my family, and uh, yeah, with my friends as well. And
Um,
definitely, yeah, I'll eat a lot of food before I die.
yes, I agree in that. Be well fed before the last day, no? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Dapat yung tamang answer is ano, close friends are family din. So, lahat family, di ba?
Um, Sorry for that. For the audience, if it were your last day on Earth, what would you want to do? Like, what would you want to accomplish in your last days? I'll give the audience a minute to say what they think they would do on their last. So go ahead. All right. I think that's all of the. So can someone read it? Oh wait. So for your next lover, 24-hour date with crush. What do you all think about this? Hello. What do you think about this?
Sorry, what's the question again?
Not the question, but what's your reaction on this? If you were uh If it were the last day of your life, what would you say, or what would you want to do? And
Parang last words.
no, I asked the audience what they would want to do in their last day.
Okay, got it.
Here for your next lover, 24-hour date with crush. What do you think about this?
Oh, mm, in spirit ng Valentine's Day. That's
Yes,
good.
in the spirit
That's
of
good.
Depends kung
Valentine's Day.
papayag siya. Mm,
Sabi, it's my last day na, pwede ba please?
depends kung papayag.
Pag ninilip down ka pa, para mag-beg ka talaga.
Okay. Pwede din yun.
But, paano? I think that's a good
Magandang
technique.
idea. Magandang idea.
Magandang idea.
Magandang idea.
Uh,
She won't reject
Matry
you
ba?
na.
Joke lang.
If she rejects you,
GG's na.
24 hours. Parang masaya.
para
Very
masaya.
nice. Masaya. Good decision, in my
Uh,
opinion. Ikaw, Lorenzo, ano opinion mo doon?
Saan?
Yo, last day na ni your next lover, nag-comment. Last day na niya. At
24
gagawin
hour
niya
date
ay
with crush
date
daw.
date with crush for 24 hours daw.
Ano opinion mo?
Ano opinion mo doon? Ano mo sasabi mo?
Reaction? Ano masasabi mo?
Oh, or
Siyempre,
given advice?
I will be so sad. And
Ikaw?
yeah, it's her last day, bro.
Pero, papayagan ba siya ng crush niya?
Oh.
No.
Mag-date daw sila 24 hour. Last day niya.
Last day.
Sure. Kahit sa bahay lang, okay na yun.
Okay na yun. Kahit hospital na lang, okay na yun.
Puntahan ko
It's
na
all
lang.
good.
ito.
Puntahan mo na.
Ito, eat with crush. So, parang same na rin, no? Go to Disneyland. Ako, pangarap ko rin mag-Disneyland balang araw.
Oh,
May minamit. Miso ba?
Pwede din. Pwede din.
Disneyland na lang. And from Kento Yamada, make peace with all the people I hurt, intentionally or not, and send email to all those that once have become part of my life. Maganda rin ang closure para sa no? Tuwing mawawala ka, bibigyan mo ng closure yung mga kasama mo. How about you, Julian?
yung opinion ko sana.
Yeah.
Make peace with all the people I hurt intentionally or not, send email. Yeah, I think it's good giving closure to people that you know in life that you care for. This is a good one, Kento. Good job, Kento.
Okay, so now to the next part. To the final part.
One wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet, death is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it. And that is as it should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It's life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Right now, the new is you. But someday, not too long from now, you will gradually become the old and be cleared away. Sorry to be so dramatic, but it's quite true. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
This is actually really sad Steve Jobs has, I think, already passed away, and that it's really emotional knowing that one of the great people in life has died. It's somewhat emotional for me since he is uh, one of the figures I tend to look up to. So for me, it's emotion. In my opinion, and my what I learned from this is that time is limited. So if you want to do something, do it. Don't get frozen by fear. Just do what you want and do it the best you can. And for the others, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I think in passing the Steve Jobs really has affected us one way or another. For example, mga ano, Apple products, we won't really get mga opinions din niya on the current state ng society natin at mga insight niya. It's such a sad passing talaga. It really affects us as a generation. Then it was one for he's one of the excuse me, mga leads ng mga of the previous generation, one of entrepreneurs, one of the holding flags at for him to pass away is such a grieving idea na ano din. And I think it's also gives us insight din na the idea of what if ngayon sabihin sa'yo na just like Steve Jobs when he was told na ano, what if someone tells you today, a doctor or someone sabihin sa'yo na you're about to die in the next 6 months. This is your last 6 months well on Earth technically. Na ano, will it, it's you're gonna try to live your life at its fullest in in those 6 months, and you might reflect on your. I think the that is such a painful thing to think about, but it also gives us a good image. It's also a good motive too, in the could be seen as cynical way. Pero yeah, ikaw Vibrant and Dreams.
Oo,
Ano?
agree naman ako sa ano niyo, sa sagot niyo. Well, wala naman na akong i-a-add kasi maganda na yung sagot niyo. Ikaw, Lorenzo.
Wala naman. Wala naman. Sorry for the wait.
Yeah, I really agree with Putian on this point, but uh, since thinking of that gives us the greatest motivation, though it's painful to think about that, it also signals us or signifies us do the best we can do on our everyday life because we won't be able to do it anymore after we have passed. That's what my take on it. Now we will start the
Q&A.
7-minute Q&A for those who have questions.
Yes. Bring out your
Yeah,
questions,
bring the
ladies and
questions and we'll try to answer them the best we can.
yes. Anything, any questions come in mind, comment lang kayo.
Uh, oh, here pala. Let's go back to the question of Kwento Yamada earlier, in connection to the connected dot story, does it mean that by just being self-trusting, we can already have a great future? Well, self-trusting is a big part because self-trusting is also confidence, but it doesn't guarantee us a great future. Sure, it gives us the strength to do what we would like to do and achieve what we might want to achieve, but it also takes school, yeah, education, skill, and luck. Important somehow, importantly, luck is somewhat important in this. How about next next na pala. Uh, are there any more questions for the?
Any more questions, uh, guys?
Oh, here. By Kento Yamada again.
Ooh,
Another question. Can the lessons of Steve Jobs stories help us face challenges ahead? How
yes.
about Felipe? You take this.
Oh, me? Sige, sige. I think, yeah. Uh, the lessons, sa stories ni Steve Jobs in life, can it help us can it help us face challenges ahead? Yes, I think yung mga binibigay, mga stories na kwento niya is really highly valuable. He's one of the most successful people in the world. He's faced na mga high torment, mga highly, one of the most resilient people. He's faced death at least two times. First time was he was told na he has cancer and na talo niya at for some reason. At sadly, he was given cancer once again and sadly he passed away in that. I think and the amount of things na achieved niya, the status na he was given, the that he was given in life, at the things that has achieved with the environment that he was in, it's really admirable. And this the lessons that he gives us is like it really there are motivations, there are experiences that he has experienced. It's advice from an experienced person, and I think it's one of the most credible things to have is evidence. So yes, to answer, I don't know, short answer to the question, yes, I do think the lessons in on Steve Jobs' life stories does help us face challenges in our life. And I think being youthful person, a young person, and listening to Steve Jobs is a real step forward because he said these things to give us, the youth, a chance to make a better future. Parang, sinabi niya the things na sinabi niya in this video, this motivational speech. He wrote this speech. He prepared this speech for us, the young generation, to hear and to, I think, to hear it and actually listen to yung mga advice niya would really help us, us as a generation to make good decisions, unlike the past generation. Yes. So yes, the answer to that question is yes, it does help us. Ikaw, Byron.
Yes.
Here, since we're a bit, so we're just gonna say our takeaways. So do the best you can do, and don't stop believing in yourself. Thank you for watching our stream, and thank you for listening, giving us your time. And
Yes.
we'll see you in our next stream. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
po.
you. Thank you,
Arigato
everybody.
gozaimasu.
Arigato.
Happy Valentine's!
Happy
Thank
Valentine's.
you.
Have a
Thank
great
Next
you.
week
day.
pa yun.
Bye-bye.
Advance ka dun ah.
Crush! Si Saya!
Nakain ulit ako.
Bye-bye.
Gutom na gutom ako.